Welcome in, everybody, to this Kansas City Royals postseason recap presented by Bleacher Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and over the course of the next 30 minutes, we are going to talk all things Royals baseball. The Royals fell to the Yankees in Game 4 of the 2024 ALDS at Kauffman Stadium last night. It was a rough loss, but honestly, it was a loss that I was kind of anticipating after their Game 3 collapse, and we're going to talk about all of that because there's a lot to unpack. Listen, the Royals might not have won this series, but I think that you can really see that they're coming. This is a Royals team that is built for the future. You got Bobby Witt Jr., you got Vinny Pasquantino, who is still coming back from that thumb injury, and you have the good pieces. You have your core, and with the pitching staff like Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo, you're a few pieces away in free agency from legitimately being a contender in the AL. And I think that is a very encouraging thing. We have to start off by mentioning that just last year, this very same Royals team lost 106 games. They went from 106 losses to winning 86 games, winning a playoff series against the Baltimore Orioles, and having postseason baseball return to Kauffman Stadium. So yeah, they didn't beat the Yankees, but I kind of expected the Yankees to come out there and beat us. I mean, at the end of the day, they have $300 million players, and that's 3 times what our payroll is. And so, yeah, the Yankees beat us, but Jazz Chisholm said that the Royals got lucky to beat them in Game 3, or I guess Game 2. But I think the Royals proved in this series that from start to finish, they were going to fight. And the Royals fought very hard all series long. Now, they didn't get, the results that we wanted to see in most of those games, and we're going to talk about why. But it seemed like the narrative around this Royals team was that, since they're playing the Yankees, they're going to roll over and just take it. And they did not do that. The Royals, like they always do, they fought, and they fought hard. And the result wasn't what we wanted to see, but I think there are a lot of encouraging things about this current team that if you make a few adjustments in the offseason, you're back. You're back in the postseason. And Bobby Witt Jr. was talking to the media post-game, saying basically that this is the expectation now. We don't just, want to be happy to be here. We expect to be in the postseason, and we expect to produce. And I think that's very encouraging for Royals fans to hear, because in my lifetime, I'm 2 semesters away from graduating with a bachelor's degree at the University of Kansas. The Royals have made the playoffs 3 times. 2 of those times, they have gone to the World Series. So this is the only time in my lifetime that the Royals have made the postseason, and they haven't gone to the World Series. But that could be true for a lot of you watching this live stream. The Royals have not had a lot of postseason success, really a lot of series success during the season in 35 years. And so that's why it's so special when playoff baseball does come around, because it just feels like the Royals are meant to play in the postseason. They've got a great postseason record. They might not make it all the time, but they're a pretty good team when they make it. And so to win a series against Baltimore, I think that really signifies good things for the future and gives something for Royals fans to kind of hang their hat on. You can kind of say that this season was a massive success. I know that there was a lot of people saying that if the Royals won 70 games, you'd be happy. The Royals, they got 86 wins, won a playoff series, and brought playoff baseball back to Kauffman Stadium. And so I think that this season was overall a big success. Now, it sucks to lose to the Yankees, and I know that some fans, and this is included in myself, once you get to that point in the postseason, it's like, why not us? Why don't we beat the Yankees? Why don't we keep advancing? But at the end of the day, the Royals do not have the talent in this lineup to compete with the Yankees. And I think that's okay to admit, but we really saw that be true in games 3 and 4. And let's talk about it. So the Royals pitching staff was pretty good in this series. They were able to limit a Yankees offense with Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, to basically being, pretty pedestrian in this series. The only guy that really killed you in Game 3 and then again in Game 4 was Giancarlo Stanton. But the fact that Juan Soto didn't have a Juan Soto series And Aaron Judge was pretty much shut down for the most part by this Royals pitching staff. That's really encouraging. The only hit I believe that Judge had in this entire series was a double in last night's game. And so if that's all that Aaron Judge, the MVP, does to your team, you played him well. And so the Royals really pitched to Aaron Judge well. I thought they did a really good job, getting out of situations and pitching around some of the big hitters in their lineup. But you did see like an Anthony Volpe, or the big one was their left fielder. Why is he not coming to Verdugo? Verdugo having that single in the bottom of the 8th inning, or maybe it was the 7th inning, in the first game on that Jazz steal where he was clearly out and the replay kind of screwed over the Royals. And Verdugo got the go-ahead RBI, which ended up being the game-winning RBI. The bottom of the lineup, similar to the Royals, kind of killed the Royals. Like the Yankees' bottom of the lineup kind of produced in big ways in this series, and it killed you. But the biggest thing that killed this Royals pitching staff was the walks. I mean, the walks was just, it just seemed like they were putting themselves in horrible positions because they were trying to pitch around guys, but I think they should have attacked, a few other guys in their lineup, because this is, I think, is the biggest stat that no one else is going to talk about. In this series, the New York Yankees walked 27 times to the Royals' 7 walks. So 27 walks to 7 walks, and the Royals did not walk at all in Game 4, which really makes you wonder if they need to change their approach in the offseason, because part of that Royals postseason brand of baseball is you need to get on base to keep the line moving. You need to have somebody on base who can steal bases and, keep innings going and get runners in scoring position, which it just seemed like pulling teeth to get runners in scoring position in this series. It was not good. I mean, they struggled to get guys on second and third base, and when they did, the heart of the order would come up and not do anything. And listen, I love Bobby Witt Jr. I think that he's going to be an MVP. I think he is one of the best young players in the game of baseball. He can do it all. He can play defense. He can hit. He did not have a good series. And the announcers, we'll talk about Bob Costas in a minute, but I really think that Bobby Witt Jr. struggled in this series. He did basically single-handedly win that wild card series against the Orioles, but Bobby Witt Jr. did struggle. Vinny Pasquantino struggled. He had an RBI last night, but that was really the only hit that's worth noting. I think that might have been his only hit. And Salvador Perez also struggled. And when you have Vinny Pasquantino coming off of a thumb injury, who got basically rushed back for the playoffs, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, all 3 of those guys who carried your offense all season long, when they're not producing, you're going to be in trouble. And the Royals offense was in trouble. And I think the biggest reason why you were not able to win this series is because you were relying on guys like Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez and Garrett Hampson to not only get on base, but drive in runs. Garrett Hampson was like an MVP in that Game 1 against the Yankees, where he drove in a couple runs. And then I guess he drove in 1 run. And then the next night, the night the Royals won, he drove in like 2 runs on a single that got through the infield. So realistically, you can't have those bottom of the order guys completely taking the load of the offense, because there's a reason why they are at the bottom of the lineup. And the Yankees 7, 8, 9 hitters are going to be a lot different than the Royals 7, 8, 9 hitters. There's just a big disparity in talent. And I think that as the series went along, and Salvi and Witts and Pasquantino, when they weren't hitting, it just didn't seem good. And realistically, like, I'm going to take the bias out of it. I lost all hope when the Royals lost Game 3. When you saw Seth Lugo go out there and pitch pretty well, and the bullpen comes in and they're pitching really well, and then Bubic comes in and gives up that home run to Stanton, makes it 3-2 Yankees. That kind of seemed like the momentum shifter in this series. I know people want to talk about the Jazz stolen base, that he was called safe when he was clearly out, and the umpires in Game 3, but it just kind of seemed like that home run was the difference in this series. and it got Stanton going at the plate, and it just seemed like you really needed to win game 3 in order to have a chance to win this series, because you were going to have to win game 4. And then if you won game 4, you have to go to New York and win in game 5. And I want to address this comment. We made it farther than anyone expected, but the inexperience for sure showed in games 3 and 4. Absolutely. And listen, I don't want to have the mindset of moral victories and, oh, like, we're just happy to be here and we won. And I'm just, the new team on the block. The Royals should have expected to win this series, and I'm sure that they did, but the talent disparity at the end of the day, it's a lot. And I think that the inexperience paired with the lack of talent at the bottom of the order, I think that really kills you. And listen, you didn't have your big hitters hit in big moments. You didn't see Bobby Witt Jr. hit a double. You didn't see Vinny Pasquantino go yard. You didn't see Salvador Perez outside of that home run in New York. You did not see him show up and, put the team on his back like we've seen him do in so many other times. So when your big time hitters, the guys that you're paying to really be the heart and soul of your offense, when they're not hitting and they're not producing, you're going to be screwed. And so it just seemed like, the Royals didn't have enough left in the tank. Offensively, they're going to have to make a couple moves in this offseason. I think you got to get at least 3 bats, like 2 outfielders and a third baseman. I like Maikel Garcia, but listen, you can't have somebody like that at the bottom of your order that's just not getting on base. And I know he had 4 hits in one game, but we need some real talent in this lineup because that's all they're missing. You saw that this bullpen went from being one of the worst bullpens I've ever seen from May till August. From August to September and into the postseason, they were pretty good. I mean, you saw John Schreiber pitch lights out. Angel Zerpa, a guy that got recalled and looked like the reincarnation of Kelvin Herrera. Lucas Erceg turned into, Wade Davis. Like, we've seen, guys step up in that bullpen. You've got a really good starting rotation with, you got Reagans and Lugo and Singer, who Singer came in one moment in this postseason and struck out Aaron Judge. And so you've got the talent. I think you need like three, maybe 4 bats, probably 3 bats, and then a couple of bullpen arms. And if you get those things, you're going to be right back in October and you're going to have a much better chance of beating a team like New York. And I think that going forward, a lot of the mistakes that they made in this series, they can correct and not make again. The biggest thing that I think is we should take away from this series, the Royals walked way too many hitters. When it comes to the New York Yankees and a lineup that is good 1 through 9, if you're walking 27 guys over a 4-game period, you can't have that. It's just unacceptable. Like, you were giving the Yankees free base runners, and at the end of the day, the Royals can't afford to give New York more opportunities to score because it just felt like every pitch, every at-bat, I was on the edge of my seat just waiting for Aaron Judge to get into one, just waiting for Giancarlo Stanton to break out, and at one point he finally did. But it just seemed like the Royals were making it way more stressful for themselves because they were just putting guys on base when at the end of the day, you can't do that against a team that has such a great 1 through 9 lineup. So I think the Royals learned a lot from this postseason loss. I think that everyone in Kansas City, you might be a little bit disappointed. Like, I'm not super thrilled with the loss. I'm obviously pretty upset, but I think that you can take it for what it is and say, listen, just a year ago, we lost 106 games. We were the laughing stock of Major League Baseball. We were a team that seemingly had no future. And in one offseason, they go out and they sign Lugo, they sign Waka, they sign Renfroe, they make moves, and your team is right back in the playoffs. And so if it shows anything, John Sherman, the owner of this franchise, he better be spending money. We better see John Sherman make some big moves for a couple free agents to make this team better. I hope the green light is there for this front office to go out and sign guys necessary to make this lineup better. Because I think at the end of the day, the offense wasn't enough. Against a team like the Yankees that have Garrett Cole and Clark Schmidt and Carlos Rodon, who you were able to get to, and a bullpen that was pretty much lights out, most of the postseason. They didn't allow a run in this series. You can't have that. You need a team that can scratch together runs in the worst way possible. And I think in a weird way, you kind of made that Yankees bullpen look a little bit better than it actually is. I think the bullpen is their weak point. But when you got Garrett Cole going 7-8 innings in game 4, that's going to be pretty tough. Like, he was just so dominant, and it just felt like the Yankees had more talent down the stretch than the Royals did. And they were the superior team. Coming into this series, we all knew that the Yankees were a better team on paper and a better team in reality than the Royals. But that doesn't matter. It is postseason baseball. It is October baseball in Kansas City. You never know what could happen. In 2014, a Royals team that was not that good, like, just if you look at the metrics, they were not that good. They won the wild card against the Athletics, and they were able to run to the World Series. They were a hot baseball team. They played together. They played great defense. They put the ball in play. And in the postseason, guys like Eric Hosmer, guys like Mike Moustakas, they hit home runs. And you were able to run to the World Series, ultimately losing to the Giants and then coming back the next year and winning the whole thing. But that was a team that was built for October, a team that could, not only get on base, but they could hit a timely home run if they needed. And especially in the postseason, where every run is so valuable because you never know if that's going to be, the difference in a game. I think that it's important that going forward, you add guys that can get on base. I mean, some of the swings that they were taking yesterday, part of the issue that I saw just from a fan perspective, they would take the first pitch and then they'd get down in the count 0-2. And then it seemed like they were just swinging to try to do too much. And it really showed. I think Bobby was pressing. Vinny, I just don't think was healthy. And Salvador Perez has a horrible eye. But that's kind of what makes Salvi Salvi. He just swings at stuff that you can't really fathom why he'd swing at it. But sometimes it goes 450 feet. Like, for whatever reason, he just has a way of hitting some really bad pitches. And I think you just kind of have to let him do it because it's what makes Salvi Salvi. But yeah, I mean, I was really disappointed after they lost on Wednesday. I kind of felt like that was the end of the series. I even tweeted it out that it was the end of the series because, listen, going up against Garrett Cole in an elimination game was not going to be an easy task. And I think that you kind of saw after game 1 when they lost, that was all the offense that they could muster. They scored 5 in game 1. They did not get close to that the rest of the series. And so I think that's the biggest thing. In the postseason, you need to score 6, 7, 8 runs, most of the time 6 or 7, to be able to beat a team that has a bunch of offensive talent like the Yankees. And the Royals got very fortunate that Aaron Judge didn't have a good series, that Juan Soto, for the most part, didn't really have a good series. And it was really only Giancarlo Stanton and the bottom half of the order that really beat you. But also, the pitching staff did its job in all of these games. I guess the only game that I could look at and say maybe they didn't do a very good job was the bullpen in game 1, where Waka was pulled and they threw, Zerpa out there, who didn't have any control and walked a bunch of batters. And then you saw, Schreiber come in and walk in a run. And so game 1, the bullpen wasn't sharp. They rebounded from that loss and they were pretty good. But from that point on, the offense was not able to muster anything else off this Yankees pitching staff. And I think that this just signals, John Sherman needs to make a move this offseason, a couple moves in this offseason to make this Royals team better. Because I know that, it might seem like the Royals were just the team that finally made it after 9 years of no postseason baseball. But when I tell you this team is coming, I'm telling you that this team is on the rise. You saw a team that didn't back down. They didn't quit. They were going up against Baltimore, a team that was way better than them on paper. They went into their house and against all odds swept them. Swept them by scoring a grand total of 3 runs. 3 runs. And you were able to win both games, win a series, which the Royals had not done since the World Series in 2015. And then you got to come home. You hosted 2 playoff games at Kauffman Stadium. And that was something that if you would have asked this team in August, if they were going to be able to do that, you would have said absolutely not. This Royals team struggled in August. They really didn't look the same when Vinny got out with that thumb injury. And so I think that, after he gets a whole offseason to heal, you get your RBI leader back, and maybe you add a couple bats that can really just help him, carry the load of this offense. Because it was very clear that in this series, the Royals did not have enough offensive talent to compete with the Yankees. And so I do think that I'm proud of the effort. The Royals did not give up. They did not back down. They made the Yankees sweat a little bit, but also the Yankees had more stolen bases than the Royals. And that's kind of the Royals' identity. The Royals are we're going to steal 3 or 4 bases and really put pressure on you to do so, but they couldn't get on base. And when they did get on base, it just didn't, they didn't put the ball in play and move runners around. They really struggled doing that. And so it sucks. And I think let's talk about the biggest comment that was made during this series. Jazz said that the Royals were lucky to win Game 2 in New York. Jazz is just going to talk. He's going to talk. You saw in yesterday's game when Maikel Garcia was sliding into second base after Michael Massey grounded into that double play. He kind of slid in, and Anthony Volpe kind of elbowed him in the neck and then tagged him pretty rough after the initial tag, and then patted him on the back, kind of disrespecting him. And Maikel was just kind of staring him down a little bit. And Jazz comes over from third base and just starts talking crap. And so it's just he has the urge to get in on every single, little, skirmish, I guess you could say. He felt the need to act like a big, tough guy because in this series, the Royals pitching staff shut him down. Outside of that home run in Game 2, when they were down 4-1 in the 9th, he did nothing in this series. The Royals absolutely shut him up. And it's so funny that he's like, I don't see, them booing bad players. So obviously if they're booing me, I have to be great. Listen, buddy, I've watched a lot of Royals baseball. I've watched teams that have lost 100 games. We boo bad players. It is what we do here in Kansas City. And if anyone knows a bad player, it would be the Royals fan who has booed a lot of really bad baseball in Kansas City. And listen, Jazz is a good player. I like the way he plays the game. But at the same time, someone is going to get to him. And you saw in this series, he didn't have a good series. He didn't. And Yankees fans can argue with a brick wall. Jazz did not look good against this Royals pitching staff. And on that same play that Maikel Garcia slid into second base and Volpe kind of tagged him a little bit hard, Jazz kind of started talking, but the benches ended up clearing and nothing happened. But you see both the bullpens just sprinting into the diamond. And you kind of thought, oh, this is going to be like 1980s Royals Yankees postseason baseball. Nothing happened. It would have been kind of entertaining if something did happen. But I think that just kind of shows you that this Royals team was not going to just take it. They weren't just going to lie down and let the Yankees just steamroll them. They were fighters. They really were. And I think that this Yankees team had all of the pressure in the world to succeed. With them being the best team in the AL still remaining, they won. And I think that there's going to continue to be that pressure to go win against either Cleveland or Detroit. That's going to Game 5, which is a great series. But I think that the pressure is still going to be on them. And if you face Cleveland or you face Detroit, we'll see what the outcome of that game is. We'll see what the outcome of that series is, because I think those teams, they're hot. They're playing really good baseball. And are the Yankees playing good baseball? They beat the Royals, but the Royals weren't playing very good baseball. They couldn't score runs. And so if you face a team that can score some runs, we'll see what happens. But I'm really proud of this Royals team to see them, rally back and kind of go through all that adversity. Listen, at one point in the summer, the Royals were actually leading in the AL Central. They had the lead in the Central, and then unfortunately, due to injuries and just, the Guardians stepping up again, they were able to, ended up taking a back seat a little bit. But at one point in August and early September, we questioned if this Royals team was even going to make the postseason. And so the fact that they were able to fight through that adversity and find a way to pull it out, and not only pull it out and make the playoffs, but win a wild card series, I think this season was overall a huge success. And you got to give a lot of credit to, Matt Quintero and this coaching staff for putting guys in the right position. I thought that outside of putting Bubic in that 8th inning the other day, I thought that the bullpen was handled perfectly, bringing guys in that, were able to exploit some of those matchups. Angel Zerpa, he pitches pretty good against Juan Soto, and you saw that in this series. And so I thought that Q did a really good job of managing this bullpen, which, is going to be crucial coming down, the later stretches of next year and then the year after that, because this team is going to be in contention. And listen, previous managers have not handled the bullpen very well. Even Ned Yost had some trouble at times. But I think that this series, this postseason run has showed MLB fans that the Royals are back. The Royals are back, and they're ready to, actually do something in the postseason. And so next year, I'm super excited. I think this team should compete to win the division. If you win the division, you don't play in the wild card series. Go win the division. Go, get a home, playoff series. Start game 1, game 2 at Kauffman Stadium. Win a postseason game, and the life back in Kansas City will continue to grow and grow and grow as this Royals team continues to win. And listen, Tuesday night, I guess it was Monday night, the Kansas City Chiefs played. They beat the Saints on Monday Night Football, and the Royals were able to go to New York and split with them, beating them 4-2 on Monday. And for the first time in a long time in Kansas City, both the Royals and the Chiefs won on the same night. And so it is a great time to be a Kansas City sports fan. The Royals are on the come up. The Chiefs are going for their 3rd straight Super Bowl. It is, the best time arguably in Kansas City history to be a fan of these two teams. And I think with Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez leading the charge, this team is going to be back, and they're going to be back a lot. And I trust that they are going to have what it takes next year to make a deeper run. And listen, it's not always the best team that wins. You've seen with the Phillies. The Phillies got knocked out by the Mets. There's a lot of good teams that don't end up making the World Series or even the Championship Series. So it's important that the Royals continue to play their style of baseball by getting base hits, just singles or doubles, stealing bases, playing great defense, and getting great pitching from the starting rotation and then the bullpen. If you can do that, you're going to have the recipe to succeed in October, and we've seen it happen twice before. The Royals in 14 and 15 had that recipe for success. And the Royals in 2024 just need to replicate that and be able to hit a couple more home runs. And this Royals team is going to compete for a World Series here in the next couple seasons. So the Royals fall to the Yankees in the 2024 ALDS. The Yankees win the series 3-1. They ended up celebrating in Kauffman Stadium. And Bobby Witt Jr. was still in the dugout watching all of it. Stephon Diggs-esque. But I think that the difference between Bobby Witt Jr. and Stephon Diggs, Bobby Witt Jr. is much better at his sport than Stephon Diggs is at his. And also, I think that the Royals overall as a team, they're going to have what it takes to compete with the team, so big as the Yankees next year. Once they make some free agent moves, the Yankees might have $300 million, but they don't have Bobby Witt Jr., and they don't have this pitching staff that I think could quite literally carry you in the postseason if the offense does a little bit more. So that's really all I have for this post-game live stream. The Royals fall to the Yankees in the 2024 ALDS 3-1. It sucks that they didn't get a home playoff victory, but I think that the seed has been planted. Postseason baseball returned, and the Royals had a great year. Let's not, get it twisted. Again, this was a team that lost 106 games last year. They were able to overcome all of that, make the postseason, and win a postseason series. And as a Royals fan who has watched countless 100-loss seasons, I'll take what the Royals just did over, the past any day of the week. So for Michael Darcy, thank you for watching this Royals post-game live stream. If you enjoyed this stream, go follow me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. I do a lot of Kansas City Chiefs content, sprinkled in with some Royals content. Go follow me on social media, Twitter, KC Sports Report, and also at the Michael Darcy. And you can also follow my KC Sports Report on Twitter and Instagram, KC_Sports Report on Instagram, and then just KC Sports Report on Twitter. Thank you guys for watching this Royals post-game live stream presented by Bleacher Report.